Professor Kizarn adjusted the environmental controls in the Grand Lecture Hall of the Galactic University of Historical Studies for the 5th time that morning. The mixture of atmospheric requirements for the diverse student body had to be perfect. As the iridescent scales along their neck shifted from deep blue to an excited gold, they reviewed the attendance roster one final time on their quantum tablet. The classroom could accommodate 30 students from 23 different species, each requiring their own specific environmental bubble. The professor had specifically requested the university's most advanced lecture hall for this groundbreaking course. After all, this would be the first comprehensive study of Earth's history ever presented to non-human species. The first students began arriving 2 hours early. MX-03, a crystalline being from the Centauri system, floated in on their gravity cushion, her transparent body refracting the morning light into countless rainbow patterns across the walls. They were followed by a group of Proximan scholars, their tentacles gently waving in excitement as they discussed their predictions about the course. "I heard humans developed space travel in less than 100 years after achieving powered flight," one whispered, their voice translating through the universal communicator with a tone of disbelief. "Impossible," another responded, their chromatophores flashing patterns of skepticism. "Even the mechanicals took 5 centuries to make that leap." Professor Kizarn smiled inwardly at their discussions. If only they knew what other surprises awaited them in this course. As more students arrived, the hall became a living display of galactic diversity. The Jovians established themselves near the ceiling, their gas-based forms swirling in gentle curiosity. The silicon-based Martians chose seats near the thermal regulators, their crystalline structures humming with anticipation. The last to arrive was Tyranny, a young scholar from the Butterfly Nebula. Her wings, seemingly made of living starlight, folded gracefully as she took her seat in the front row. The professor had read her application essay 3 times. Her perspective on developmental diversity in spacefaring civilizations had been particularly insightful. As the chronometer pulsed the official start time, Professor Kizarn stepped onto the hover platform at the center of the room. Their scales shifted to a professional shade of silver as they activated the holographic display system. "Welcome, students, to Earth, a historical analysis of humanity's path to the stars. I am Professor Kizarn, and I have spent the last 3 standard cycles preparing for this historic moment." The professor's translated voice carried clearly through each student's environmental bubble. The main display erupted with a high-resolution image of Earth, its blue and white surface spinning slowly. Several gasps echoed through the universal translators. Most students had never seen such a water-rich world. Earth joined the Galactic Federation merely 30 days ago, marking a significant milestone in our shared history. But before we begin our study of human history, I must prepare you for what you are about to learn. The professor's scales rippled with subtle patterns of caution. Many of you come from worlds where evolution followed a path of gentle adaptation. Your ancestors developed in environments that encouraged cooperation and gradual change. The professor gestured to various students. The Centaurians evolved in crystal harmonics with their sun. The Proximans developed in their ocean's embrace. The Jovians emerged from the peaceful dance of gas giants. The holographic display shifted to show Earth's early environment. Volcanoes erupted in the background, meteors streaked across primordial skies, and massive tectonic plates collided in spectacular fashion. Humanity's path. Professor Kizarn paused, their scales shifting to a deep purple of academic excitement, was quite different. Over the next 8 sessions, we will explore how this remarkable species not only survived, but thrived under conditions that many of our civilizations would consider impossible. Tyranny's wings shimmered with anticipation as she activated her data recorder. The professor noticed several students adjusting their sensory inputs to maximum receptivity, a clear sign of intense interest. Today, we begin with Earth's prehistoric period. I must warn you, what you are about to learn may challenge your fundamental understanding of how an advanced civilization can develop. Are you ready to begin? The universal translator struggled to process the chorus of enthusiastic responses in 23 different languages. Professor Kazarn's scales blazed with brilliant gold as they prepared to launch into the first lecture, knowing that by the end of this course, none of these students would ever view the universe quite the same way again. The holographic display shimmered as Professor Kazarn adjusted the temporal settings. The lecture hall darkened, and a pristine reproduction of Earth's Pleistocene epoch materialized before the class. Several students instinctively activated their protective fields as a saber-toothed cat prowled through the projection, its movements so realistic that even the professor's scales rippled in response. "What you are witnessing," Kazarn began, their voice soft with reverence, "is Earth approximately 200,000 years ago. Note the environmental conditions." The display expanded to show vast ice sheets, sprawling grasslands, and dense forests existing simultaneously across different regions of the planet. MX, Ulthri's crystalline form pulsed with confusion. "Professor, these conditions appear to be in constant flux. How could any species maintain stable development in such chaos?" "An excellent observation." The professor's scales shifted to an approving shade of blue-green. "Unlike many of your home worlds, Earth never achieved environmental stability. The humans' ancestors had to adapt not to one set of conditions, but to dozens, sometimes within a single generation." The display zoomed in on a group of early humans, their forms lean and alert, as they moved through the savannah. A Jovian student's gaseous form swirled in agitation as they watched the humans navigate between several large predators. But surely they had natural defenses. The Jovian's translated voice carried notes of distress. "Our ancestors developed atmospheric manipulation. The Centaurians grew crystal shells. These humans appear to have nothing." Talara's wings shimmered with sudden insight. "They had their minds," she said softly, her translator barely catching the words. "Precisely." Professor Kazarn's scales blazed with enthusiasm. "Observe closely." The hologram shifted to show early humans crafting tools, working in groups, and using complex strategies to survive. Without natural armor, they developed artificial protection. Without built-in weapons, they created tools. Without genetic climate adaptation, they learned to use fire and create clothing. The display showed a series of rapid scenes, humans crossing vast distances on foot, adapting to new territories, surviving ice ages and warm periods alike. Each new challenge seemed to spark another innovation. A Proximan scholar's tentacles coiled tightly. "Professor, our historical records suggest that species facing such constant threats either achieve perfect adaptation or face extinction. How did humans manage this continuous change without losing their developmental momentum?" Professor Kazarn paused the display on an image of early humans teaching their young to create tools. "What you're identifying as a disadvantage was, perhaps, humanity's greatest gift. Their environment never allowed them to achieve perfect adaptation. Instead, they developed something far more valuable: adaptability itself." The hologram shifted again, showing human migrations across continents. Tulara leaned forward, her wings casting prismatic patterns as she studied the display intently. "They're not just surviving," she noted, her voice filled with wonder. "They're actively seeking new challenges." Indeed, the professor expanded the display to show multiple human groups developing different solutions to similar problems. While most species evolved to fit their environment perfectly, humans evolved to become environmental generalists. They could survive almost anywhere, adapt to almost anything. A Martian student's crystalline structure vibrated with what the universal translator interpreted as academic excitement. Is this why their technological development accelerated so rapidly compared to other species? Professor Kazarn's scales shifted to a deep purple of scholarly satisfaction. Watch this sequence carefully. The hologram showed a succession of human innovations, each building on the last. Having never achieved biological perfection, humans never stopped innovating. Every challenge became an opportunity for advancement. The display froze on an image of early humans gazing at the stars. The professor's voice softened. While our ancestors were becoming perfectly adapted to their stable environments, humanity was learning something far more crucial for their future among the stars. They were learning how to learn. Talara's wings cast shifting patterns of starlight as she processed this revelation. "Professor," she asked, her translator struggling to convey the complexity of her emotion, "are you suggesting that their seemingly chaotic evolution was actually optimal for space exploration?" The professor's scales rippled with approval at the question, but before they could respond, the Jovian student's form swirled in evident distress. "But the predators, the climate shifts, the constant threats." Professor Kizarn's scales shifted to a gentle shade of wisdom. "And now we begin to understand why humans view the challenges of space exploration so differently than we do. For them, adaptation to hostile environments isn't just a survival strategy, it's their heritage." Professor Kizarn's holographic display shifted to show the first human settlements emerging along riverbanks. The morning light caught Talara's wings as she leaned forward, casting prismatic patterns across her data tablet while she studied the primitive structures taking shape before them. Here, the professor's scales flickered with enthusiasm. "We witness one of humanity's most remarkable transformations. Watch closely as they begin to shape their environment rather than simply adapt to it." The hologram zoomed in on a group of humans mixing mud with straw. A Centaurian student's crystalline form vibrated with confusion. "They're deliberately making their dwelling materials less pure. Our ancestors saw out the most perfect crystal formations for habitation. Observe the result," Kizarn encouraged. The display showed the mud brick structures rising, level by level. By combining materials in seemingly illogical ways, humans created something entirely new. These imperfect buildings could be shaped to any form they imagined. The Proximan scholar's tentacles waved in synchronized patterns of understanding. "They're not seeking perfection," one observed. "They're seeking possibility." The hologram expanded to show multiple settlements developing simultaneously across different regions. Each group had adapted their building techniques to local materials: stone in mountainous areas, wood in forests, ice in polar regions. The Jovian student's gaseous form condensed slightly in concentration. "But Professor," the Jovian's translated voice carried notes of puzzlement. "These solutions are all different. How do they maintain species cohesion without standardized development?" Talara's wings shimmered as she spoke. Perhaps the diversity itself was valuable. Her voice carried a hint of excitement. Each group solved the same problems in different ways, creating multiple successful strategies. "Precisely." Professor Kizarn's scales blazed with approval. The display shifted to show early trade routes forming between settlements. These differences became advantages when communities began to interact. Each group had something unique to offer, something new to teach. The hologram focused on a scene of early writing development. The class watched in fascination as simple pictographs evolved into complex scripts. The Martian students' crystalline structure hummed with interest. They created multiple communication systems simultaneously. The Martians' translation carried tones of astonishment. "Our species spent 3 millennia perfecting a single optimal communication method." The professor gestured, and the display filled with examples of early human languages, mathematical systems, and artistic expressions. Humans never sought a single perfect solution. Instead, they embraced the power of having many solutions, many perspectives, many possibilities. The hologram shifted to show early humans working with fire, shaping metal, creating wheels. Each innovation built upon the last, but not in a linear fashion. Different communities leapfrogged each other, borrowed ideas, combined techniques in new ways. "Notice," Kizarn pointed out, "their scales shifting to a deep shade of academic intensity, how they turn seeming failures into new opportunities. This broken pot becomes the inspiration for a better design. This collapsed structure teaches them about stronger building methods." Talara's wings cast dancing patterns of light as she made rapid notes. "They're not just learning from success. They're learning from everything." The professor expanded the display to show the development of early cities. Now observe as these separate innovations begin to combine. The hologram revealed how irrigation led to agriculture, how agriculture led to permanent settlements, how settlements led to specialized crafts and new social structures. A younger Proximan scholar's tentacles curled in wonder. It's like watching 1,000 different experiments running simultaneously. And each experiment, Professor Kazarn added, their scales rippling with excitement, contributed to their species' collective knowledge. Even failed attempts provided valuable data for future innovations. The display froze on an image of an ancient marketplace, where people from different regions exchanged goods, ideas, and techniques. The professor's voice softened with reverence. While many species sought to perfect a single way of life, humans were busy exploring every possible way of living. They didn't just adapt to their environment. They learned to adapt their environment to them. And in doing so, they developed something unprecedented. The ability to imagine things that had never existed before, and then bring those imaginings into reality. Hilara's wings pulsed with sudden insight. Is that why they were able to imagine traveling to the stars, even before they had the means to do so? The professor's scales shifted to a deep, knowing purple. Indeed, and perhaps now we begin to understand why. When humans finally reached for the stars, they did so not with one perfect method, but with 1,000 different dreams of how to get there. The holographic display in the lecture hall pulsed with a soft blue light as Professor Kazarn prepared to begin the next segment. The image crystallized to show ancient human healers working with herbs and primitive tools. Several students adjusted their environmental bubbles as they leaned forward with interest. Today, the professor's scales shifted to a thoughtful amber. We examine how humans transformed their greatest challenges into catalysts for advancement. The display showed a sequence of early medical procedures, each more sophisticated than the last. Hilara's wings rippled with fascination as she watched humans developing increasingly complex healing techniques. They're learning from each unsuccessful attempt, she noted, her translator conveying wonder. Each failure leads to a new approach rather than abandonment of the effort. Observe this particular innovation. Professor Kazarn highlighted a scene showing the discovery of penicillin. What appears to be a ruined experiment becomes one of humanity's most significant medical breakthroughs. The Centaurian student's crystalline form pulsed with unusual intensity. But surely such random discoveries cannot form the basis of reliable scientific advancement. The professor's scales flickered with academic excitement. But humans developed something remarkable. The scientific method. The hologram shifted to show the evolution of human experimental processes. They created a system to transform random observations into repeatable results. A Martian student's silicon structure hummed with interest as they watched humans documenting their failures and successes with equal diligence. They record everything, even the unsuccessful attempts. Indeed, Kazarn expanded the display to show libraries, universities, and research centers. Humans learned to build upon both their triumphs and their setbacks. Each generation added to a growing pool of knowledge. The hologram now displayed a series of technological leaps. The wheel, the steam engine, electricity, computers. Each innovation seemed to spark dozens more, creating an accelerating cascade of advancement. Notice, the professor guided their attention. How humans rarely solved problems in isolation. A breakthrough in one field often led to unexpected advances in others. Hilara's wings cast shifting patterns of light as she made the connection. Like how their early study of blood circulation influenced their understanding of fluid dynamics, which later helped them design better spacecraft. Precisely. Professor Kazarn's scales blazed with approval. The display showed parallel developments across different fields, each feeding into the others in complex ways. A Proximan scholar's tentacles waved in a pattern indicating deep thought. But such rapid advancement must have created significant societal stress. How did they maintain stability? The hologram shifted to show how humans adapted their societies to accommodate new technologies. Markets evolved, education systems transformed, and social structures flexed to embrace change. Humans, the professor explained, their scales shifting to a deep blue of insight, developed something we might call adaptive stability, the ability to remain balanced even during periods of intense change. The display now showed modern research laboratories, where humans continued pushing the boundaries of knowledge. A Jovian student's gaseous form swirled with curiosity. They haven't slowed their pace of innovation, even after joining the Galactic Federation. Professor Kizarn's scales rippled with enthusiasm. On the contrary, observe their current projects. The hologram filled with images of human scientists collaborating with alien researchers, combining methodologies in novel ways. They're adapting our technologies, the Martian student noted, their crystalline structure vibrating with surprise. But they're using them in ways we never considered. Talara's wings shimmered as she studied the display. It's as if they see possibilities that we overlook because our development was more predictable. The professor nodded, their scales shifting to a proud purple. Humans have a saying, necessity is the mother of invention. Their challenging past taught them to see opportunities where others might see only obstacles. The hologram concluded with a scene from a modern human-alien research facility. Human scientists worked alongside beings from across the galaxy, each bringing their unique perspective to shared problems. Perhaps, Professor Kazarn suggested, their scales now a contemplative gold. This is humanity's greatest gift to the Federation. Not just their innovations, but their unique way of pursuing innovation itself. Talara's wings cast a complex pattern of light and shadow as she considered this. They don't just solve problems, she realized. They transform them into stepping stones to somewhere new. The professor's scales shifted to a deep, satisfied purple. And that, students, may be why humans reach the stars so quickly. They never saw the void of space as an obstacle. They saw it as their next great opportunity. The lecture hall transformed as Professor Kizarn activated a new holographic sequence. The sterile academic space bloomed with color as images of human artwork filled the air around the students. Cave paintings spiraled overhead, their primitive beauty drawing gasps from the assembled aliens. Today, the professor's scales shimmered with anticipation. We explore perhaps humanity's most unique characteristic, their need to express the intangible. The display showed early humans creating music with simple instruments, their faces alive with joy. The Centaurian student's crystalline form vibrated in harmony with the ancient melodies. These sound patterns, they serve no practical purpose, yet they produce measurable emotional responses in my crystalline structure. Precisely, Kizarn's scales rippled with pleasure. Humans discovered that beauty itself could be a form of communication. The hologram expanded to show the evolution of human musical instruments, from holologs to complex symphonic orchestras. Talara's wings pulsed with colors as she watched humans dancing. They used their bodies to create temporary patterns, she observed, her translator struggling to convey her fascination. Like my wing signals, but purely for emotional expression. The professor directed their attention to a series of theatrical performances throughout human history. Notice how they use storytelling to process their experiences, to teach, to remember, and to imagine new possibilities. A Proximan scholar's tentacles waved in a pattern of deep appreciation as they watched humans painting, sculpting, and creating in countless forms. Each piece seems to capture a moment of their consciousness. More than that, Professor Kizarn expanded the display to show galleries, theaters, and concert halls. They created spaces dedicated solely to experiencing these emotional expressions. Art became a way to share experiences across time and culture. The hologram shifted to show human sports and games. The Jovian student's gaseous form swirled with curiosity. They invented artificial challenges, even after overcoming so many real ones. Through play, the professor explained, their scales shifting to a warm orange. Humans learn to practice skills, build connections, and explore possibilities without risk. Watch how children's games often mirror adult activities. The display filled with images of human celebrations, festivals, ceremonies, holidays. Each culture had developed its own unique expressions, yet all shared common themes of joy, remembrance, and hope. Lara's wings cast rainbow patterns as she studied a human wedding ceremony. They create rituals to mark emotional transitions, she noted. They make internal changes visible to their community. Humans learned early on. Kazarn's scales pulsed with insight that shared experiences build stronger bonds than shared environments alone. The hologram showed how cultural practices spread and evolved as different human groups interacted. A Martian student's crystalline structure resonated with unexpected emotion as they watched humans comforting each other in times of sorrow. They use art to process difficulty as well. Indeed, the professor's scales shifted to a gentle blue. Through creative expression, humans learn to transform their challenges into sources of strength and beauty. The display showed how human art often emerged from periods of hardship, creating works of profound impact. The hologram now filled with examples of modern human entertainment, virtual realities, interactive experiences, and new forms of artistic expression that blended technology with tradition. Observe, Professor Kazarn highlighted how they continue to innovate in their pursuit of emotional connection. The display showed humans sharing their art and culture with alien species, creating new forms of expression that bridged biological and cultural differences. Lara's wings shimmered with revelation. Their art isn't just about expression, she said softly. It's about connection, finding ways to share experiences across any barrier. The professor's scales rippled with approval. And perhaps this explains another aspect of their rapid advancement. Humans never saw technology as merely practical. They saw it as another medium for expression, another way to connect. The display concluded with a scene from a recent interspecies cultural festival, where human art and alien expression merged into something entirely new. The Proximan scholar's tentacles moved in a pattern of deep understanding. They don't just adapt to new environments, the scholar observed. They find ways to make each environment feel like home. Professor Kazarn's scales shifted to a profound purple, and that, students, may be humanity's most remarkable achievement, the ability to create meaning and beauty wherever they go, transforming the unknown into the familiar through the power of creative expression. The holographic display darkened until only pinpoints of light remained, creating a stunning representation of the night sky, as seen from ancient Earth. Professor Kazarn's scales shifted to match the starlight as the class gazed upward in wonder. Long before humans could reach the stars, the professor began, their voice soft with reverence. They dreamed of them. The display showed early human astronomical observations, stone circles aligned with celestial events, and ancient star charts drawn on cave walls. Lara's wings reflected the starlight as she leaned forward. They studied the stars before they could reach them, even before they understood what stars were. More than studied, Kazarn's scales flickered with enthusiasm. They wove the stars into their stories, their myths, their very understanding of themselves. The hologram displayed various human constellations, each culture seeing different patterns in the same stars. A Jovian student's gaseous form condensed slightly in concentration. But why expend such effort on something so far beyond their reach? The professor expanded the display to show the progression of human astronomy. From naked eye observations to telescopes, from basic star charts to complex mathematical models of the cosmos, humans possessed something remarkable, Kazarn explained, their scales shifting to a thoughtful blue. They could look at an impossible challenge and say, "Not yet," instead of "never." The hologram shifted to show early rocket experiments. The Martian students' crystalline structure vibrated with surprise as they watched the frequent failures. They continued despite so many setbacks. Each failure taught them something new, Lara observed, her wings pulsing with understanding. Like their earlier innovations, they saw these challenges as steps forward. Professor Kazarn nodded, their scales brightening. Now observe this crucial moment. The display showed the first human steps on their moon. While other species waited to develop perfect space travel technology, Humans used what they had and learned along the way. The Centaurian students' crystalline form sparkled with sudden insight. Their imperfect solutions allowed them to start sooner. Precisely. The professor's scales rippled with approval. And their early experiences, though primitive by our standards, gave them invaluable knowledge about space travel's challenges. The hologram displayed a sequence of human space missions, each more ambitious than the last. Space stations, planetary probes, and colony ships filled the air around the class. Notice, Kizarn highlighted, how they applied their characteristic adaptability to space exploration. The display showed humans modifying their ships, improving their systems, and solving problems in real time during missions. Approximate scholars' tentacles waved in a pattern of amazement. They're treating space like their early ancestors treated Earth's varying environments. Yes, the professor's scales blazed with excitement. Their evolutionary history prepared them perfectly for space exploration. Where we saw the void as hostile, they saw it as simply another environment to adapt to. Talara's wings cast shifting patterns as she studied the various human space habitats. They're not just surviving in space, she noted. They're making it their own, just like they did with Earth's challenging environments. The display showed human space stations filling with art, gardens, and gathering spaces. The Jovian students' form swirled with curiosity. They'd bring their culture with them. Humans learned long ago, Professor Kizarn explained, their scales shifting to a deep purple. That adaptation isn't just about survival. It's about creating home wherever you go. The hologram now showed modern human ships working alongside alien vessels. The professor's voice carried notes of admiration. Their unique approach to space exploration has already begun to influence Federation practices. Their willingness to take calculated risks, Hilara observed, her wings shimmering with revelation, combined with their ability to improvise solutions, makes them exceptional pioneers. The professor completed the thought. The display showed human crews helping to establish new colonies, tackle space emergencies, and push the boundaries of known space. Perhaps most remarkably, Kizarn concluded, their scales glowing with a profound golden light. Humans never lost their sense of wonder about space. Even now, with faster-than-light travel and advanced technology, they still look up at the stars with the same dreams that drove their ancestors to first point their primitive telescopes at the night sky. Professor Kizarn recalibrated the holographic display, and a lecture hall filled with images of the first official contact between humans and the Galactic Federation. The assembled students watched as human diplomats met with alien representatives, their faces showing a mix of excitement and measured caution that seemed uniquely human. In just 30 days, the professor's scales shifted to a reflective blue. Humans have already begun reshaping how we approach certain challenges in the Federation. The display showed various scenes of human experts collaborating with alien specialists across different fields. Hilara's wings sparkled with interest as she observed humans working seamlessly with various species. They adapt their communication styles to each species they encountered, she noted, like they're creating the unique bridge to each civilization. Indeed, Kizarn's scales rippled with approval. Watch this remarkable example. The hologram focused on a human emergency response team training Federation crews. The humans were teaching their quick-thinking, adaptable approach to crisis management. A Centaurian student's crystalline form pulsed with revelation. They're not just sharing their solutions, they're teaching their problem-solving methods. The professor expanded the display to show multiple collaborative projects. Humans brought with them something we hadn't realized we were missing: the ability to see old problems from entirely new angles. The hologram shifted to a Federation research facility, where human scientists worked alongside alien researchers. The Martian student structure hummed with interest as they watched humans combining different species technologies in unexpected ways. Observe how they approach technology, Professor Kizarn highlighted. Instead of seeking the single best solution, they explore how different approaches might complement each other. Talara's wings cast dancing patterns as she studied a scene of humans helping to redesign Federation emergency protocols. They're applying their experience with Earth's diverse environments to help us prepare for different types of crisis. Approximate scholars' tentacles moved in a pattern of understanding. Their history of adapting to constant change makes them excellent at preparing for unexpected challenges. Precisely, the professor's scales brightened. And noticed this particular innovation. The display showed humans introducing simulation training programs, allowing Federation crews to practice emergency responses without risk. The Jovian students' gaseous form swirled with curiosity. They're applying their concept of play to serious training. Humans understand, Kazarn explained, their scales shifting to a deep gold, that the best way to prepare for real challenges is to practice facing them in controlled conditions. The hologram now displayed scenes from the newly established human division of the Federation Science Council. Here, humans were helping to break down barriers between different scientific disciplines, encouraging cross-field collaboration. What you're witnessing, the professor noted, their scales pulsing with excitement, is the introduction of human interdisciplinary thinking to our research methodologies. Talara's wings shimmered as she made connections, like how their early survival required them to combine different types of knowledge. Exactly. The professor's scales blazed with approval. Their evolutionary history taught them that the most innovative solutions often come from unexpected combinations. The display showed humans working to establish new cultural exchange programs within the Federation. They were creating spaces where different species could share not just knowledge, but art, music, and traditions. A young Proximan's tentacles waved enthusiastically. They're applying their experience with Earth's cultural diversity to help different species connect. Professor Kazarn nodded, their scales shifting to a warm purple. Humans understand that true cooperation requires more than just sharing technology. It requires building understanding between different ways of thinking. The hologram concluded with a scene from the Federation Council, where human representatives were proposing new initiatives for interspecies collaboration. Their approach was characteristically human. Ambitious yet practical, innovative yet grounded in experience. In just 1 month, the professor observed, their scales glowing with optimism. Humans have shown us that diversity isn't just something to be tolerated. It's something to be celebrated and leveraged for the benefit of all. Talara's wings cast a complex pattern of light as she contemplated this. They're not just joining our community, she realized. They're helping us become a better one. The final session of the course began differently than the others. Instead of Professor Kazarn standing at the center of the lecture hall, the space had been transformed into a replica of an ancient human gathering place, with the holographic display creating the illusion of a warm firelight glow. Throughout this course, the professor began, their scales shifting through subtle shades of gold. We've examined humanity's remarkable journey from their challenging origins to the stars. Today, we consider what their journey teaches us about our shared future. Talara's wings cast gentle patterns of light as she and her fellow students settled into the intimate setting. The holographic flames flickered, reminiscent of how humanity's earliest ancestors might have gathered to share stories and knowledge. When humans first joined the Federation, Kazarn continued, many wondered what they could contribute to our advanced civilization. The display showed scenes from their previous lessons, early human struggles, innovations, artistic expressions, and space exploration. The Centaurian students' crystalline form pulsed with newfound understanding. We thought we were welcoming a young species who needed our guidance, they observed, but instead, the professor's scales rippled with approval. We found teachers we didn't know we needed. The hologram now showed recent footage of human problem-solving methods being adopted across the Federation. Talara's wings shimmered as she spoke. Their greatest strength isn't in any single advancement, she realized. It's in how they approach advancement itself. Precisely, Kazarn confirmed, their scales brightening. Humans show us that there is no single path to progress. Their history proves that challenges, when approached with creativity and determination, become opportunities. The display shifted to show various scenes of human-alien collaboration. The Proximan scholars' tentacles moved in a pattern of deep appreciation as they watched humans working seamlessly with beings whose biology and thinking were radically different from their own. Notice, the professor highlighted, how they maintain their adaptability even now. Rather than resting on their achievements, humans continue to seek new ways to learn, to grow, to connect. The Jovian students' gaseous form swirled thoughtfully. They turned their need for constant improvement into a strength for the entire Federation. The hologram expanded to show the latest Federation initiatives, all bearing the distinctive mark of human influence. Emergency response protocols that emphasized flexibility, research programs that encouraged creative problem-solving, cultural exchange projects that celebrated diversity. What we've witnessed in this course, Professor Kazarn explained, their scales shifting to a deep, wise purple, is more than just the history of one species. We've seen a different way of thinking about progress itself. Talara's wings cast complex patterns, as she added. They show us that perfection isn't the goal, adaptation is. And perhaps most importantly, the professor continued, the holographic flames casting warm light across the gathering. Humans remind us that our differences are not obstacles to overcome, but resources to embrace. The display showed one final scene, a new Federation exploration vessel, its crew a mixture of humans and various alien species, preparing to venture into unknown space. The ship's design itself was a blend of different civilizations' technologies, stronger for its diversity. As we conclude this course, Kazarn's scales shifted through a rainbow of emotions. Remember that humanity's greatest gift to the Federation isn't their technology, their methods, or even their adaptability. It's their demonstration that the path forward isn't about becoming more alike. It's about learning to work together while celebrating our differences. The holographic flames grew brighter, casting a warm glow over the assembled students. The Martian students' crystalline structure resonated with harmonic appreciation. They don't just adapt to the universe, they observed. They help the universe adapt to itself. Professor Kazarn's scales settled into a deep, satisfied gold. And that, students, is why this course isn't just about Earth's past. It's about all of our futures. Together, we're learning that the greatest adventures don't come from having all the answers, but from being willing to seek them together. Talara stood, her wings casting one final brilliant pattern of light. So perhaps, she suggested, her voice carrying the weight of revelation, we should stop thinking of humans as our newest members and start thinking of them as our newest teachers. The professor's scales blazed with pride as the holographic flames danced in perfect harmony with Talara's wing light, creating a display as beautiful as it was unplanned, a fitting end to a course about humanity's gift for finding opportunity in the unexpected.